Born to be alive. Born. Shout out. Thank moderator gave the shout out. You're getting promoted. Born to be alive. Hey everybody, welcome back. Welcome in. Find a seat. Stand if you want. You can even lay down if that's your thing. Come on in, sit on down. Where have I been? Where have we been? Where have I been? Working on some construction projects. We finished our basement, which took months to do, and it was quite the task, but it looks good. Looks good, we got it done. And then lately I've been helping work on Grandma's bathroom, which I might still go do today. I might still go do that today. I'm kind of waiting to see when Casey gets back so that I can drive out there. Because Dadtron just left to go over to Grandma's house, and I might go over there and give him a hand. Do it myself. Casey's dad is the real MVP when it comes to the construction stuff, because he used to build houses for a living. I, on the other hand, it's mostly just intuitive. Have I ever considered going on other streams to inform about your services? Not really, no. There have been some people that I've wanted to collaborate with, but honestly, getting streamers to do anything to collab, it's just a mess. And so I normally just don't bother with it. What I've noticed is that streamers can be very ADHD, and it can be pretty hard to properly collaborate. Especially if they're streaming all the time. Anyway, I'm not against it. What I was thinking about doing is doing like a call-in, but having other streamers call in. Then we can chat. I think that could be fun. Deer is awesome. I've met Deer a few times, you know, we've known each other for years at this point. Deer and Casey are close friends. Deer's awesome, so funny, and the drag looks always kill. The drag looks always kill. But yeah, those, like, I'd like to reach out to some people and see if they'd like to come on. There's probably a couple drag queens that I could get on. I wouldn't make them do drag to come talk to me, though, unless they wanted to. You know, you have to respect the art. You gotta respect the art because not only do they stream, but they take all of that time to do a full drag look before they stream. And it's like, most of these streamers could never. The amount of drive it takes, the amount of discipline it takes. It's like being a fucking Blue Man. Are you familiar with the Blue Man group? Where they perform like twice a day throughout the week. It's like twice a day at least. And they have to paint themselves blue in order to do it. It would take a lot of discipline to be a Blue Man. I was just thinking about this when I saw the Blue Man group when I was in Las Vegas. And I was just ripped on edibles and I was just like, damn. I was just breaking it down like, do I have what it would take to be a Blue Man? And I'm like, that's gotta paint yourself blue every day. But I appreciate people who commit themselves to their art. Deer and I have a standing offer for Deer to do a drag look on me. Because I don't know if you know this, but I look pretty fucking good. And there's nothing wrong with looking good. It's a common misconception that doing drag is automatically something that you only do if you're LGBT. I consider myself an ally, but I also like looking good. Also, real warriors love to wear makeup, so I don't get what the hang-up is. People just get so bent out of shape about drag, and it's really funny. Because you got straight men doing their straight version of drag all the time. It's like, what do you think they're doing when they're dyeing their beards? You know, or they're getting hair implants, or like jaw implants, or chest implants. It's like, they just want to look good. There's nothing wrong with looking good. But anyway, that's what it's all about. It's all about looking good, feeling good. Drag is an ancient art form. If I know my history, there was probably a time period in history where they would only allow the straight men to do it. That's just tended to be history. It's like, if there's ever something that's been going on, it's like they normally only allowed straight dudes to do it first. Which is just kind of weird. I'm not trying to take credit for it. I don't think we invented it. But just think about ancient theater. It's like they used to only let men perform. And so you had men dressed as women and playing women's parts. That was as recent as the 1500s. Like, damn, can you imagine starting a theater company and being like, no chicks? Like, damn. It's a goddamn sausage fest in here. That's MAGA. It would surprise you. So, some of you are aware that one of the things I like to do is go and troll right-wingers on a burner account on Twitter. And I swear, a lot of these MAGA influences are like deeply repressed, closeted men. You know, it's a known fact that whenever the RNC is in town, the Grindr servers get overloaded. I heard that the company that made Black Myth Wukong used 0 women on their team. Incel behavior, if you ask me. Yeah, there's this part of the incel mindset that blames women for all of their suffering. Like, all of the suffering in the incel's life is traced back to women. And so, like, why am I of poor social standing? It's like, well, because of women. It's women's fault. So, I don't know. It's just... it's a way of coping with life. But the way that you cope makes the problem worse. Kind of like addict behavior. Once you understand addict behavior, do you recognize that addicts, they're not always addicted to substances. Sometimes they're just addicted to very maladaptive coping patterns. Like blaming everybody else for your problems. Have I ever written a book? I've been thinking about it. I think that'd be fun. My question to myself has always been, what would I make a book about? I guess that's something to think about. It's always something I've wanted to do. So yeah, probably someday. The incels are pissed about the latest God of War. Yeah, which is... their mindset is just so... gross. Like, one of the things I do as a psychologist is I try to put myself into somebody else's brain so I can understand how they think. And whenever I have to do that for, like, the incel audience, it's a very uncomfortable place to be. It's like climbing into a dumpster and it's just full of rotten garbage. Was Oscar the Grouch an incel? He did live in a trash can. But I don't know, I feel like Oscar the Grouch had some redeeming qualities. You know, I'm pro Grouch. I'm pro Oscar the Grouch. He actually had some redeeming qualities. But yeah, it's like, why wouldn't you want to look at a woman in the game? It's like, okay, there can be a woman in the game, but she has to have quadruple Ds and has to be rail thin and she has to have, you know... It's just... why are we as a society catering to such a degenerative population of people? Not to portray myself as some sort of moral purist or anything, I think that there should be that content for that audience, and it already does exist, but I don't think that the mainstream should shift that way. It's harmful. It's harmful to people. It's like, whatever happened to just playing a game and having fun? Like, back in the day, games were just pixels, and you didn't care if the pixels were attractive, but why does that need to, like, can't the game be entertaining on its own merit? Does it also have to get you off? Like, that's just very weird. It's the danger of embracing the Gooner brain. It's low vibrational behavior. We need to raise your fucking amplitude. You know, at least back in the day we had to use our imagination, because it's like we saw those Lara Croft, like, gigantic triangle titties, and we were like, this is awesome. And we were happy with that. We didn't need, like, ultra-realistic jiggle physics. Anyway, I just think that it's good for a society to not capitulate to the Gooner. Don't let the Gooner run the show, because that's gonna get sticky and gross. And they're not gonna take the trash out. Locking the butler in the freezer. Isn't it funny that that's something that so many people did on Tomb Raider? Like, I did that when I played Tomb Raider, and I didn't even own Tomb Raider. I think I rented it. And I spent most of the time that I had the game rented, because you only could rent it for a couple days. I had it rented, and so I mostly just messed around in the mansion, because when you're a kid, it's like you could mess around in the mansion for hours. And that's what I did, and I would lock the butler in the freezer, because he follows you around, and it was creepy. Anyway, the new God of War games have been really cool, and I think the newest one looks cool too. And if you can't handle that it has a woman in the lead, it's like, wake the fuck up. Lock the fuck in. Anyway, I feel like this is the kind of shit that the people who run the world want us to be arguing over. Like, do I want to fuck this video game character? If I can't feel that feeling, then I don't want to play the game. It's like, brother, take a fucking shower. Clean your fucking room. How's Jordan Peterson doing? Last I heard, Jordan Peterson was not doing well. Doesn't make you sad? Yeah, no, I can't say I feel especially sad about it. Gotta do the voice. Jordan Peterson. When I think Jordan Peterson, I think, first off, he has a thick Canadian accent. He's from Toronto. He's got that thick Canadian accent. But he also sounds like Kermit the Frog a little bit. So you have to think, when you're going to try to channel that essence of being Jordan Peterson. And even then, I'm not whiny enough, because his voice is also very whiny. You have to... Hold on, I can do it. I have to channel it. I have a hard time getting the whine in, because I just don't whine very much. I'm not much of a whiner. It's sad, really. Okay, Canadian Kermit. Okay, Jordan Peterson. But then it's got a whine to it that
It feels like I'm always kind of on the verge of crying. I might be overthinking it. I don't think that... Canadian Kermit. I haven't listened to his voice in forever. I need a refresher. Nasal out. Maybe that's why I'm having a hard time. I gotta get more nasally. I gotta get up here in the front of my nose talking about it. Okay, bucko. Here's the thing. Okay, bucko. Jordan Peterson. I need to be the Jordan Peterson of the left. They always say the left needs a Joe Rogan. You know what I think the left actually needs is a Jordan Peterson. So if you guys want to do me a favor, just start referring to me as that in your other circles. Just say, they're calling this man the Jordan Peterson of the left. And they'll say, what the fuck do you mean by that? And I have no idea. I have no idea what we mean by that. We're gonna figure it out together, though. Then we have to explain who Jordan Peterson is. I'm sure a lot of people have at least heard of him, or they at least know that he's a psychologist. What do you think of my hat? This is my sun hat. I got my Menards shirt on. Alrighty. I think I'm ready. We got the question box open, folks. So if you have a question you'd like to chat about, feel free to drop it in. Get to it right away. Can people change for the better? How can I tell the difference if someone is truly changed or if they're faking it? Alright, this is a good question. Let's go ahead and break it up into chunks. So first off, can people change for the better? Let's go ahead and try to figure that one out. Is there anyone in your life that you can think of that has changed for the better? I feel like the proof is in the pudding on this one. I'm not sure where that phrase comes from. Proof? In my pudding? I think to answer that question, we just have to look outside of ourselves and see, are there people out there who have changed for the better? And what you'll notice is that when you start looking for them, you'll start to see them. They'll pop up all over the place.
And so I believe it. I believe it because I think that's a big part of what life is all about. Is it the pudding or the pudding? I don't know. I'm not sure. So, can people change for the better? I think so. I believe so. I would also say that I, as a person, have changed for the better. But I understand why a person would believe that people don't change. When it comes to change, just think about nature for a moment. Some things in nature change with the seasons. Some things in nature change very slowly over a great span of time. Some things change quickly. Some flowers only bloom for a day. What I've found is that when it comes to people changing, we can be pretty similar. Some people change very quickly. Almost too quickly. Some people change very slowly. Like a big piece of wood. The question is not, can people change? The question is, how fast do people change? Because either way, you're changing. You're always in at least a slow state of gradual change, just as a byproduct of nature. Just as you belong to nature, just like the rocks and the trees and the birds and the bees, you are also of this earth. And so you're always changing. The question is, in what direction are you changing? So how can we tell the difference if somebody is truly changing or if they're faking it? This one's going to be a little bit more complicated. What it all comes down to is, do you believe in this person? What does their track record show? Are they trending upwards? Or are they plateauing? Because it's easy to say, oh, I'll change. I've learned my lesson. This won't happen again. And then they do it again. It's easy to say words that you will change, but actually doing change takes work. And so you have to gauge, is this person genuine? Am I actually tracking some progress here? And this can take some time to figure out. We get a lot of people that write in about being in a relationship for, a couple years, and then they have all of this regret because the relationship didn't work out and they feel like they wasted all this time. It takes time to figure out if somebody is genuinely committed to change or if they're just feeding you a line. And so when you're trying to figure out, is this person genuine or not, you gotta take a look at the history. Are they still doing the same things that they said they wouldn't do? Or are they genuinely trying? Because change can take time. If we expect change out of people, we need to allow them time to make that change. Because change doesn't just happen immediately. Of course, certain circumstances may vary. Some situations may call for drastic change being made very quickly, and that's when it's showtime. Those are those real make or break moments. It's like, hey, if you don't quit doing this, like, we're done. Like, this needs to stop right now. That kind of stuff. Or whenever the cops start showing up. So yeah, it can kind of sometimes be hard to figure out, is this person genuine or not? So you gotta keep the receipts. You gotta be able to look back and say, okay, I can tell that they're trying. You know, because sometimes when change happens gradually over time, we don't notice it. Same goes for all of us. We have all changed over the span of our life. But sometimes that change happens so gradually that it doesn't really feel like anything has happened. This is why it's sometimes hard to notice that you're trending upwards or that things have gotten better than they were, because you went in a gradual shift, and so you've found a new normal, but it's just felt normal the entire time. Anyway, it's always a good idea to look back and acknowledge progress. You know, where were you a year ago? Where were you 2 years ago? 5 years ago? What sort of things have changed? A family member of mine has changed for the better after finally seeing a psychiatrist and getting diagnosed with stuff and using meds. Even being aware of the issues, they have helped all of us into a better understanding of the situation. It's good to see it. You know, there are people out there who genuinely do want to do better. There are people out there who do genuinely want to change. And it helps when we are able to support one another in that process. Now, if changing things feels difficult, the good news is that you don't have to do it all alone. That being said, I have genuinely met some people who just do not seem interested in changing whatsoever. Let's think about that type of person for a moment. What do you think would be a main characteristic of someone who has no intention of ever changing? Even if they're engaging in destructive behaviors. Wonder how many of you have met this type of person before. I'm happy to say I've met quite a few. Blaming other people for their problems all the time. Ding, ding, ding. You really hit the nail on the head on that one. This is the type of person who every single thing that happens, every bad thing that happens in their life, even if it's something that no one else had anything to do with, it's always someone else's problem. So what are some words that you would use to describe that type of person? I can think of a couple. If you want a hint, one of them starts with an N. The other one starts with an A. The type of person that you really want to watch out for if you are concerned about someone's ability to make lasting change or to assume accountability or to take responsibility, you gotta watch out for the narcissists. This is also a form of an abusive behavior. Some of you here are probably familiar with the concept of narcissistic abuse. A lot of people out there have had a narcissistic parent. You know, nothing they did was ever wrong. It was always your fault. I was going to say narcissistic asshole. That also applies. But anyway, dealing with that type of person can be really rough, especially if it's a parent or a loved one. What do you think makes a person that way? For most people that are that type of way, it's not normally because they actually think that they're so incredible or that they're so great. What it actually stems from is a very deep insecurity. And all of their behaviors are designed to protect them from feeling that insecurity. If I assume any blame, any fault, I am a failure. My identity collapses. And so that narcissistic armor is there to protect a fragile ego, an insecure sense of self. Now that's most narcissists. There are genuinely some narcissists out there with the genuine belief that they are God's gift to this planet. But those are more rare. They probably had a shitty parent too. Yeah, probably came from somewhere. You know, hurt people. It's generational trauma. Have you ever talked to a Gen Xer about how their boomer parents treated them? I've heard some shit. I've heard some shit about what the Gen X kids had to go through with the boomer parents. You know, because they went through a time where, like, corporal punishment was still just very common. The behavior gets modeled too from the parents. Yeah, you had to learn it from somewhere. And as it turns out, whether you like it or not, you tend to learn a lot about how to be a parent by watching your own parents. Now, that being said, sometimes you don't always learn what to do from your parents, but you learn what not to do. If you're able to make that distinction, You have to be able to make that distinction, though. You know, you can take that negative and flip it around into a positive. Like, maybe your parents didn't set a great example. Maybe they were shitty. But they taught you what not to do. And so, even though you went through a shitty situation, you still came out a better person for it. Not saying that what they did was right, but it did help to shape you into a better person. Sometimes in life, you just gotta make the best of a bad situation, you know? Not like you can go back in time and change it. I'm an old millennial, and some of the Gen X people disappoint me because I had hopes maybe they would not want to be like boomers, but now they are older and they're like, I had to suffer, others should suffer too. Not all Gen Xers, but I see it a lot. That sort of sentiment is going to exist across all generations. You'll see it in every generation. There's going to be millennials that are like that. There's going to be Gen Z that are like that, because it's just a selfish mindset, and that's gonna pop up in any population of people. That being said, if we're gonna, let's talk about Gen Xers for a moment. They grew up in a time where propaganda was still very effective. I would say that propaganda at this point in time is weaker than it has been in a long time. But during the 80s, it was pretty strong. What's really disappointing is seeing the boomers go from being all like Summer of Love to, you know, whatever they are now. Who saw that coming? Not all boomers are bad. If you can find an old hippie, that's what you gotta watch for. You gotta try to find the old hippies. My parents are good boomers, then you're blessed. But the old hippies are Maha and anti-vaxxers. You know, at that point, it's just like, whatever. You know, feel free to ignore modern medicine if you want to. I don't give a shit anymore. Like, whatever. I'm not... I feel like people, you know, if they have good intentions, they can still make some bad decisions, and I don't feel like I need to police everybody's decision. I'm trying to focus more on what brings people together, I guess. And I can acknowledge that we're not going to share 100% of our beliefs. So I might have to find a few that I will just have to bite my tongue. Like when I go to grandma's house, it's like they're grandparents. So what do they have on? It's like they're watching Fox News. But you know what I do when I'm over there is I try to plant some seeds. It's like, ooh, is that Stephen Miller on the TV? Ooh, I hate that guy. And they were just kind of like, huh? I was like, yeah, I hate that guy. I can't stand him. And I said, the only Stephen Miller I like is the Stephen Miller Band. And then I played Stephen Miller, Fly Like an Eagle, and it just sealed the whole deal. It's like, that's how you have to win over a boomer. You have to pretend it's... You gotta pretend that they're living their glory days. And then Grandpa got up and he was singing it. He was singing Steve Miller Band. I was like, hey. If you want to change people's minds, it helps to understand how their minds work. I think one of the mistakes that you see amongst leftists is they want to discard people who have been fooled by brainwashing and propaganda. You know what I mean? Imagine you're in the Matrix and you unplug somebody from the Matrix and you're just like shaming them like, oh my god, I can't believe that you were believed, but you were fooled by all that. You're such a fucking idiot. Like, no, when you unplug somebody from the Matrix, you need them on your side to help you fight the robots. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to win people over so that we can win the war against the robots. Just imagine that you're side by side with somebody and you're fighting Terminator robots. And you're like, hold on a second. Hey, who did you vote for 30 years ago? I need to know. It's like, no, we have a common enemy. We can hash the rest out once our common enemy is defeated. Anyway, that's where I'm at politically these days. I'm like, are you team human or are you team robot? That's what I need to know. If you're on team human, I can work with that. You might have some beliefs that don't align with my beliefs, but I'll do what I can to win you over. I can be quite persuasive. I'll indoctrinate you with the woke mind virus. I have anger problems, so I just ended up cutting off my dad and family. You don't get to say F Palestinians. Yeah, that's just kind of disturbing. You know, maybe in time you could sit down and talk to him about why saying that kind of stuff is just... like, why is that okay? Like, why is it okay to just obliterate an entire population of people? Why is it okay to kill somebody just because the people in charge say that those people need to be killed? Sometimes you just gotta look your dad in the eye and be like, Dad, you need to wake the fuck up and lock the fuck in. They're doing this shit over there because they're trying to see how well they can do it over here. And if you don't get that, then wake the fuck up. But yeah, the propaganda, it has been effective. So you gotta remember that, especially if you're trying to win somebody over, trying to bring somebody to the right side of history. Just remember, propaganda is everywhere, and it's been very effective. It's been in music, it's been in movies, it's been on TV, it's on the radio, it's on billboards, it's on packaging, it's all over the place. Yeah, the whole combining the militaries thing, I don't think that anybody supports that. Like I told you, I've been sneaking around in like right-wing spaces on Twitter just to like see what their consensus is, and it may surprise you, but a lot of people that you would say are on the right are actually just as pissed as you are. I have seen a lot of people who just feel like they've been duped and they're waking up to the propaganda. It's like, so what do you do in that situation? Do you tell them that they're an idiot, that they should have figured it out sooner? Or do you say, welcome to the team, comrade? You now have a clear understanding of our common enemy. Let's work together to make a brighter future. Cool hat. Thank you. I got this out in Las Vegas. I went to a army surplus store with Mike, Vio, and Casey, and I got a hat. Alright, let's take a look at this question. How do I understand if my partner's you work, I relax expectations? You work, I relax? If they stem from cultural conditioning, a pampered upbringing, and ADHD. Okay, we're taking ADHD off the table. We're taking ADHD, we're taking that out of the equation because I don't think that matters here. I feel like I just want to be completely blunt here today. I too often hear people use ADHD as just a reason for why I didn't do something that I should have done. Like, well, I got distracted, I did something else. It's like, you can still do things. You can still clean up after yourself. It's like, you're not a baby. I'm not gonna say ADHD doesn't exist, because I've got it. But I have learned how to work with it. You know, you try to... It's like learning how to juggle. You know, you might have 3 or 4 balls in the air, but if they all get to where they need to go, you might not be able to sit down and hyper-focus on one thing and then move on to the next thing and then move on to the next thing. Maybe that's just not how you're programmed. I think a lot of what people describe as ADHD is actually just the symptoms of having to endure under capitalism. Just being taught that time equals money. Therefore, if I waste any time, I'm wasting money and I'm failing at life. Which leads to a vast amount of overthinking and analysis paralysis. Like, do you think that medieval people had ADHD? Do you think ADHD existed? Maybe. Probably. But I don't think it was as endemic as it is today. Like nowadays, we have people feeling like I cannot function unless I take a stimulant every day to help me get my work done. It's like, maybe you just weren't built to work every day, and maybe there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe you need to stop demanding that you change in order to fit society and have society change in order to actually fit what works for a human. Anyway, I know that my opinions on ADHD is a little bit controversial because people love their Adderall. Let's restart this question because I went on a tangent. We're leaving ADHD out of the mix because if you're in a relationship with somebody and there's stuff that they could be doing to help, because that's what a partnership's all about. You know, it's a team effort. Did the ADHD part distract you from the rest of the question? Yes, it did. It derailed me. Because I just to be completely honest, I just don't buy it. Within this context, you know, if you're in a relationship with somebody and it's like, hey, why do you never flush the toilet? Why are you always leaving poop in the toilet? I got ADHD. I forget to flush, so I'm always leaving a big log in there for you. It's like, okay, flush the toilet. It's not that hard. Write it on the back of your hand. Put a sticky note up right there in front of this toilet so you see it every time. Flush. Work around it. Figure it out. I've just seen it used as an excuse too often, and because of that, it makes it harder to take genuine ADHD struggles seriously, because it is so overused as an excuse. So people need to quit doing that so that we can actually take proper ADHD seriously. So we're not going to factor that in. So is this you work, I relax expectation coming from cultural conditioning? Probably. That's probably something to do with it. A pampered upbringing, that could also have a part. Is it core selfishness? Now that we don't know. You know her better than I do, so I don't know. Without judging her. All you're doing is thinking about it. All you're doing is trying to understand it. And that's not judging. You know, to judge would be to cast some sort of criticism or blame over it. You know, I don't know. You're just trying to understand why she's doing what she's doing. I want to know if these behaviors are things she can outgrow and work on to build an equal partnership, or if this is simply who she is. I would talk to her about it, because in how she responds to talking about it, you can kind of get an idea of whether or not this is something that she really wants to change, or if she has any plans on changing. I think that in a relationship, both people should be willing to contribute. Now, notice I say willing to contribute. I don't say have to, because in your relationship, you can find what works for you. And if there's a different balance that you're okay with and you're able to make that work and both people are happy, that's fine. Some people want to be the main, person who goes and works and the other person stays at home and takes care of the house and they're happy with doing that. That's not for everybody, but some people are into it. So no matter what it is that you're into, the interest should be mutual with you and your partner. You need to be on equal terms here as far as what the expectations are in the relationship. If you're looking for a relationship that's more of an equal partnership, it's important that we make that known. You know, maybe it doesn't feel that way right now, but if your partner is willing to work towards it, then they could work just fine. But if they don't seem interested, or if they even seem like totally against the idea of like, actually, I don't do dishes. Serious question, should mentally ill people who haven't, for whatever reason, worked on their mental health try and date? Oh, it happens every day. It happens every day. I think that it's the responsible thing to do. If you are going to go into a relationship with somebody, you should be willing to try to get your shit together. You don't necessarily have to have all of your shit together, but you should at least be willing and able to get your shit together, and you're trending in that direction. But anyway, it happens all the time. I've also seen people who are like outpatient at a mental health clinic, you know, using that as like a social group and like a dating group. So just saying, like, people meet each other in mental health treatment sometimes. Shady brings up a good point. You know, sometimes a relationship can help you to be more mentally healthy. In unexpected ways, too. Like, let's say that you have, you know, some things in your life that, you know, maybe some self-defeating behaviors, maybe some things you've needed to outgrow. A partner could help you to do that, you know? By just having a trusted relationship of somebody who you can take their advice seriously. You know, I always think of a relationship as, you know, it should be you and your partner trying to help one another become their best self. Otherwise, what's the point, you know? That being said, you don't have to beat yourself up if you have a relationship and it doesn't work out, that things weren't perfect. You know, sometimes you need to go through a relationship and have it not work so that you can do better the next time around. Can couples help each other by being each other's somewhat therapists? You know, you can be a great emotional support, and I would look at it more as that, an emotional support, a confidant, somebody that you trust. You're too biased to properly be a therapist, though. To be somebody's therapist, you have to be as objective as possible. wish I had the ability to ask a single understandable question right now. You're first. Sure, I have so much going on, but that's what makes it difficult. You know, maybe you might find that I can learn stuff without asking my own questions. I feel like a lot of what people gather from this stream is not from even the questions that they ask, but in finding commonality in other people's questions. We've probably got some people in here who have watched for a long time and never asked a question. I'm not a big fan of you work, I relax. I think it should be we work, we relax. You know, if you work with your partner, you can get stuff done way quicker. And then you can hang out together. Isn't that what being, you know what I mean? Like, don't you have a partner so that you can spend time with each other? And if only one person has to do all of the work, then isn't it just like, when am I gonna get to hang out with you? Like, you don't want to be your partner's maid, you know? Right, we've got another question. Let's take a look. I am finding it difficult to interact with certain people at work as a woman in a male-dominated field, despite having and keeping close male friends in personal life. There is a boys' club of friends outside of work that has influenced poor hiring decisions and making the problem bigger and worse. Uh-oh. I wish my workplace could be more emotionally mature and work as a group together, but just agreeing to disagree with these individuals and not talking to them is currently working for me the best. But it is personally defeating as it feels like our work as a whole is being held back due to the issues with communication that they create. I know I'm not crazy because I witness these people also ignoring, being obtuse with, or leaving out other people based on race or gender, so I know I am not the only one who feels this way. I have avoided having issues with them safely, but other men and women I work with that need to work in closer proximity to them have come to me explaining their issues with them to me like I can do something about it, and everyone having meetings with HR has only led to the men avoiding saying they have any issues with any of the other men. Do you have any tips to deal with systemic workplace issues on a personal social level that have to do with this type of sexist social hierarchy group in a male-dominated environment? First off, it sounds like a lot of your coworkers see you as a unifier or as somebody to stand up for all of these people that are feeling... What's a good word? affected by all this. Marginalized? That's a good one. So let's think about this. There's a few different roads we can take here. We can go the bureaucratic route. You know, you can form an association within your workplace. Take testimony from people who have been affected. You know, have some unified, solidified power. Hey. And then together, as a group, you can demand the necessary changes. That's probably the best way to go about enacting the changes that you're looking for, is to do it through collective action. You know, if you can gather people together who have a common issue that they're concerned with in the company, and then you all together can collectively raise your voice, then it's more likely that something will be done about it. Option 2, which is less politically correct, would be for you to become the big dog and to beat them at their own game. Okay, so you're dealing with like the chud mindset, right? You're dealing with this like frat boy mindset. That's what you're up against. This boys club. In reality, it's just a lot of performative chest pounding, and you can get them. You can exert influence over them by just beating them at their own game. Start challenging them on their masculinity. But again, that's the morally gray path to take. I would encourage you to go with option 1, which would be collective action. Because it sounds like there are a lot of people being affected by this, and many of them have talked to you about it, so maybe you could be some sort of figurehead. You could help get people together. Anyway, this like frat boy culture is too common in company organizational structures. I've heard that certain like game industries have this problem, you know, or it's the boys club. But anyway, it's not just your fight, so I would try to unify with the other people so that together you can demand change. Because oftentimes change doesn't happen unless enough people are willing to come together and speak up. Anyway, it sucks. It sucks, and that's why corporations are cringe. Anyway, it'd probably be in your best interest to also just start documenting everything. You know, any type of discrimination or harassment, date and time. Get those receipts. Because it is really important that you look out for yourself in these types of environments, you know? I missed it with their harassment. I wasn't, possibly, you know, to some extent. It just sounds like it's a big boys club. Like, harassment comes in many different shapes and forms, so. So yeah, I would document everything and also look to get people unified. You're not the only one that's been affected by this, you're not the only one that's noticed it. So if you come together with those other people, you have a better chance of something changing. Or you try your best to keep your head down and just continue to get through the days. And I don't know. The other option is to get another job. You just wear a fake mustache, infiltrate, and then take over from the inside. Have a coup. Don't mind me. Just one of the guys. It's important to remember that this type of toxicity in the workplace affects everybody. Men are also affected by patriarchal systems. That's been one of my challenges in life, helping men to realize that they are also a victim of the patriarchy. Or start a company. You guys want to start a company? I call dibs on CEO. You give any free resources to get started? Can be hard to find sometimes. I don't have any, not off the top. another tactic is to show how that culture hurts the bottom line. Mm-hmm. You don't want to run a company like it's a frat house. Like, bro, my dad owns this company and he got me a job here, and guess what? He made me senior VP. So like I get control over who we hire. I'm gonna bring in like a bunch of my buddies. It's gonna be so awesome. And then they wonder why the company fails. That sort of shit happens all the time. I have a strong feeling this is being allowed because they are related or friends. Yeah, exactly. It's the phrase, it's not what you know, it's who you know, is so incredibly true. Just look at our presidential cabinet. It's just full of unqualified sycophants. Doctor? Hey. It's true, but what can we do? We can't fix nepotism. We just have to continue speaking against it and make it so incredibly unpopular. The reason why it keeps going is because we keep participating in it. Support independent art. You know, don't just go see whatever latest movie came out because it's got a bunch of, you know, it's got so-and-so's kid in it and it's, you know what I mean? I think that, like, because the thing about nepotism is the people who get elevated access because of who they're related to, they're not always terrible. Like, some Nepo babies aren't awful. Some of them are pretty good actors. Some of them are pretty good, you know, at making music or whatever. And it's like, if they're genuinely good, that's fine. But we don't have to support everybody. Or everything they're trying to shove in our face. Is that a rip at a movie out now? No. And I wasn't thinking of any particular movie when I said that. It sounded so specific. Oh, no, it's just very applicable. Like, just think of the latest piece of slop that was dished out by a major studio. You know? And then look at who starred in it and see who all they're related to, and you realize they're like, oh, like most of these people have family in the industry. But it is what it is. Me personally, I think it's more interesting to not see the same 5 people in every show and every movie. I don't know about you, but sometimes it just takes me out. It just takes me out. It's like, hey, that's that one person. I've seen them in so many other things. What's up? Hey, how's it going? We're just chilling at the moment. I think I might run over to Grandma's house here soon and go do some work on her bathroom. I was waiting for Casey to get back with the car. Her dad went up there in the truck about 2 hours ago. Go see if I can help him out. But I'll hang out for a little while longer, so if we have any more questions or anything, if there's anything you guys want to chat about, just let me know. It'll be a little bit of a shorter stream today. It was kind of just killing time before I gotta go work on the bathroom. Any home renovation enjoyers? I gotta say, this stage of my life has been quite the journey in learning the art of home renovation. Can we cover some positive topics? I don't know what you mean. I'm always positive. Moving into a home that needs renovations and I'm very overwhelmed with it. I totally get that. It can feel very overwhelming when there's a whole list of things that need to be done. And that's kind of where we're at nowadays. It's like if you're buying a home, it's like you're either buying an overpriced new constructed home that was just slapped together and probably has a bunch of problems with it because they threw this thing up in a week. Just take it as you go. Just focus on one thing at a time. That incremental progress. And before you know it, things will be totally different. I also have 0 skills to DIY anything. That's what YouTube is for. Whenever I had to start learning stuff, I would just watch people do it on YouTube. And then you try it for yourself and you're like, oh, this isn't so bad. And then what you realize is a lot of DIY stuff, they make it so that it's relatively foolproof. Like if you make a mistake, they make ways to fix that mistake. You know, it might take you a little bit more time. It might take you a little bit, you know, you might have to fix a few things. But the main thing that I've learned about working on a house is that there are more solutions than you're aware of as far as like, how do I take care of this thing or fix this thing? Or if I need to do this thing to fix this, it's like, a lot of professional carpenters also have 0 skills. You know, sanding and paint make me the carpenter I ain't. So, the biggest thing that I would say about going into doing like DIY stuff on your house is don't expect it to be perfect because wood is rarely completely straight. You know, things are gonna be a little bit off center, a little bit, you know. It's just about making it look good. It's not making it perfect. It's also helpful to have an idea of what order you want to do the renovations in. Like if there's stuff that you plan to do with the floors and the walls or any like structural stuff, it's like there's an order to it. And once you kind of understand that flow, it makes it seem a lot less overwhelming. Wayne asked, did you know much about construction before the renovations, or did you learn as you go kind of thing? I knew a little bit. You know, my grandpa was always fixing his house, and he would always have me watch him and sometimes help a little bit, but it's not like I really learned everything. But yeah, it's not that hard to learn as you go. Now, construction has rules, and once you understand the rules, it's pretty straightforward. You wish you had that? I can guarantee that there's a grandpa near you that would love to teach you how to build something. That's why grandpas are so special, is because they want to teach you how to build stuff, and they're all over the place. Once you learn how big a project can be without the city code guy showing up for permits, you are good. Also, don't forget the magic phrase, that was here when I bought it. I don't know, it came that way. Yeah, what we're doing on the bathroom today, so Grandma's bathroom, it needed quite a bit of work because there was water damage and it got into the floor and it like messed up the floor joists. So we had to like rip the floor up and put new joists in and replace the flooring over that. And then we installed a new floor. We put in some vinyl planks. We ended up putting in the same stuff that we got in our basement because we brought a couple pieces over there to show them, like, hey, this is what we use. This stuff's pretty nice. And they ended up liking it. So they're like, they ordered some. I need to redo that to my bathroom so bad. It's actually more fun than you might think. I actually enjoy it quite a bit. It's pretty fun. It gives you that feeling of checking something off on your list that's been there for a while. Like, have you ever had that pestering feeling of, there's something I need to get done, there's something I need to do? Like, it can help you to get rid of that feeling. I'm like, oh yeah, I've been meaning to do this for a while. It's good to check that off the list. But yeah, there's a ton of stuff that you can do entirely on your own. You know, it's not that hard to hang sheetrock. It's not that hard to mud and tape drywall. It's not that hard to paint. It's not that hard to hang trim. There are certain things where you would want some guidance, though. Like if you're doing anything structural, if you're doing any like plumbing or electrical. My mom lives on her own and her house is so old, but she unluckily got a son who doesn't do manual labor very well, lol. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. Like, it's not that hard to learn. People will try to cut corners and be lazy when it comes to working on construction. That is... Your hands are soft, and just wear gloves. Just wear gloves while you do the construction, you'll be fine. You can also get some of this. This working hands stuff. Help to keep your hands soft even if you do manual labor with your hands. Even though it's never been something I've had the opportunity to do, I love doing things with my hands. It's my goal to be able to have like a wood shop where I can experiment. Watch a lot of YouTube videos where people just build stuff. My only hesitation is how expensive it is to make mistakes and to kind of get your way in. Here's the thing about wood. Wood is actually very forgiving. Wood is very forgiving. And it depends on what you're making, but if you make a mistake with wood, it's normally not that hard to fix it. It just takes time and sanding. The thing about wood is that wood glue exists. If you're not familiar with wood glue, it's awesome. You use wood glue to bind wood together, and the glue ends up being stronger than the actual wood. And so if you're worried like, oh no, this thing I'm making out of wood is going to be worse because it has wood glue in it, it's like, that's actually not the case. Some wood glue, some clamps. I think a good place to start, because you could do this with little scrap pieces of wood, you don't even need anything all that crazy, is to just make something that you can put outside, like a little bird feeder, or a little, like, bird house, or a little squirrel house. It's one of the things that I've been wanting to make. I want to make a squirrel house. We have this like solar powered outdoor camera, and it was connected to this bird feeder that we had, but the bird feeder is in rough shape, so I was thinking about repurposing the camera and turning it into a squirrel house, and then we can spy on the squirrels. I was thinking more of Sashimoto, the Japanese art style, where they don't use all those machine type tools. They just shave. It's very precise, takes a lot of time. It also takes years of practice. That's the thing about getting into a new hobby is we want to make sure we find a good entry point into that hobby. I would say one good entry point into working with wood would be to like refinish a piece of like a chair or like a little end table or something, a little cabinet, a little shelf, you know, sand it down, fix it up, give it a new stain. Because that's where a lot of the work in woodworking actually goes, is in the finishing. Capitalism trauma leads to the constant fear of not having enough time. The irony is that you spend a lot of time worrying about running out of time, and in doing so you end up wasting more time. Isn't that crazy? Like, we're so worried about wasting time, and then we waste more time in worrying about how much time we're wasting. It's almost comical. One guy I followed, he was kind of thinking, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, never done this before, and clearly just after a year he became a rock star, encouraged me to get into it. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise you, like, you can learn a lot pretty quickly when it comes to doing a hobby. Like, you starting out versus you after a year of practice can be totally different. Truck driver. You know what you might be able to do? Do a little bit of whittling. I'm just thinking of something that you could do while out on the road. Wood pallets can be free. Oh yeah, just go to the hardware store. They got a whole stack of them. I've also heard that liquor stores can have really good pallets because the type of wood that they use is different because it's carrying all those like glass bottles and stuff. I don't know, actually. That's what I've heard. Isn't that unhealthy to build with? If you wear a respirator, if you're gonna sand it down, wear a respirator because it's a treated lumber. So just treat it like you would any other piece of treated lumber. Just mask up when you're sanding it. Wear gloves. But yeah, treated lumber is very gross. But sometimes it's necessary to work with, especially if you're building something that's going to be living outside. Typically drive 15 to 20 hours allegedly a day, so I really don't have the energy to do anything for myself. You could listen to audiobooks while you drive. You could sing. You could learn how to throat sing. Whenever I was starting off practicing throat singing, I loved to practice in the car while I was driving because I sounded like shit and nobody could hear me. Yeah, if I had a job where I was driving all the time, I would be listening to so many audiobooks. music's nice, but it's like sometimes it's nice to do something else with your brain inside of just listening to music. Don't get me wrong, I love music. But I find it's nice to have an audiobook on, or like a podcast or something, if you're doing something else. You're learning a language, so you're doing the thing. You are doing the thing. Our minds crave hobbies. They really do. Having a hobby is so healthy for you. For me, music turns me more productive. Yeah, here's a little hack for you. If you're ever finding that it's hard to get motivated to clean up, you gotta put on some cleaning music. There's nothing more sad than cleaning to the sound of nothing. You need that cleaning music going. I think the only issue is that I'm constantly daydreaming and thinking of ways that I can change my past. But we can't, though, can we? We can't change the past. The only thing that we can do is change how we feel about the past. Yeah, sorry about the ads. The 3-minute ads, it's the minimum amount per hour that you have to have in order to disable pre-roll ads on the channel. Pre-roll ads. Pre-roll ads suck. Nobody likes pre-roll ads. You get people click on your stream and they see a pre-roll ad and they might click off of your stream before the ad's even finished. You know, when you talk about your mind taking you to events from the past, you know, those past pains, those past traumas, just wondering about what things would have been like if those things hadn't happened, or thinking about how we wish things would have gone, or how to change those things. It can be stressful, especially if it feels like, why does my mind go here? This isn't fun to think about. I find it helpful to recognize that the reason why my mind is bringing this up, the reason why my brain is bringing me here, is so that I can do something about it. I'm not here just to revisit, I'm not here just to relive, I'm here to figure out, where do I go from here? And that's where a lot of people get hung up, is in the reliving. You know, if you find yourself revisiting the past, it's probably for a reason, but that reason probably isn't what you think it is. I choose to believe that the reason why it's brought back up is because, we're trying to develop a new perspective on it so that we can move on from it. It's a wound that we've been holding on to, and that's why it keeps popping up, is because it's painful. We're trying to fix it. And so you might be wondering, well, where do I go from here? What do I do to change it? I've tried everything I can think of. You know what I find to be helpful? Just be there with those feelings, as if you're watching them float by. Don't go running after them. Don't go diving into them. Just allow your mind to wander and see where it goes. Kind of like floating in a creek, floating in a river. Just allow yourself to float, allow yourself to drift through those thoughts. And see where your mind takes you. Instead of trying to exert your will over them or trying to swim against the current, just allow the current to flow and then just observe where it flows to. And what you'll find is that in doing that, you'll find the answers that you were looking for, because they've been right there inside you this whole time. We just needed to relax into that assessment. The way to get over that pain, that mental pain, is to relax into that pain. Because whenever we're reminded of it, we start thrashing, and it hurts. It might surprise you just how much stuff you can get through just by allowing yourself to simply be, without attachment, without judgment. Because these things pop up and then we start asking ourselves all these questions, like, why did this have to happen to me? Why did this have to happen to me? What if things had been different? What if this had happened instead? What if I had been born under these conditions or these circumstances? What if I made option B instead of option A? What if I'd made this choice? What if I studied this instead of that? Just accept it. The practice is known as radical acceptance. You are accepting things as they are in this moment without trying to change them, without trying to fight against them. It is what it is. The ifs are brutal. That's where a majority of our suffering comes from, is from the what ifs. We suffer more in our imaginations than we do in reality. Your mind can be a place that you go to find refuge. It does not need to be a place that you are trying to run from. It's your mind, and you are not your thoughts. You are the thinker of thoughts. We are causing our own pain. We are causing the continuation of the pain. We might not be the origin of that pain. Somebody else might have inflicted that wound upon us. But after a point, we have to be the ones to stop picking at it so that it can heal. If we're keeping that wound open, if we keep digging at it, it's just gonna get all scarred up. It's gonna hurt way worse. And we do that to ourselves. That's why it's so disheartening to see left streamers go at each other's throats. A lot of people in leftist spaces have to deal with a scarcity mindset because leftist spaces do not receive a lot of support from established forces in society. They don't get a lot of mainstream coverage, so they kind of operate on the fringe. And when you operate on the fringe, there's less to go around, and so unfortunately you see people who should be banding together turning on one another for their own potential gain. Are we mentally ill, you think? I think the society is sick. I think that capitalism is sick. I think it's a driving cause of a lot of our illness. When I look out into the world, what I see are a lot of people who are well-intentioned, trying their best to survive in a system that just was not built for them. Some people would say that that's mental illness, but I don't know. I think the system's ill. Is there any system I advocate for? There's some systems that are alright. I'm not an anarchist. Yep. Nothing will turn you against capitalism quite like capitalism. You know, as much as established forces like to complain about far left brainwashing or whatever, it's like, we don't need far left brainwashing. Like, capitalism as it exists is bad enough. Like, enough people are aware of that on its own. You don't need people being radicalized against it. No, it's just kind of sick that they've got this system where they work people to death and they also make you feel like it's your fault for not being happy about that. Like, oh, what's the matter? You're not thrilled to work a majority of your life? To spend less time with your family? To spend less time on vacation or seeing the world? Not be able to afford healthcare or education? What's the matter? You don't like that? Maybe you should get on some pills, actually. Maybe there's something wrong with your brain. Have you thought about that? That's why I'm just so exhausted with the current system. Just got a system that just destroys people and then makes people think that it's their fault. It's pretty insidious, actually. It's like, wow, that's pretty fucking evil. Like every time you hear a feel-good news story and it's like, hey, this kid, he sold all of his Pokemon cards to raise money for his brother's bone marrow transplant or something. And it's like, this is not a feel-good story. This is a feel-bad story. I feel bad now. This is terrible. People don't know history. That's a major problem amongst people. That's also why history class is so terrible. Because the history that they teach you is kind of bad. Like, hey, kid, you want to learn a bunch of justifications for American imperialism? You want to be conditioned against socialism? You want to be taught that we were the good guys, even though in a number of conflicts across the world we profited greatly by selling weapons? You want to hear about all those South American governments that we overthrew? I saw an article, it was like, there was this 85-year-old woman working at a movie theater, and somebody had filmed her carrying a heavy trash bag, and she had this arch on her back. She was just bent over like this, and it was like, people saw this and came together, and they raised $150,000 so that she could retire. And I'm like, nothing about this is making me feel good. So a bunch of people had to subsidize an elderly person's retirement? Well, I'm supposed to feel good about the fact that there's 85-year-olds out there having to perform manual labor? These are symptoms of a society in decay. Have you seen the people at hospitals where they just dump patients in the street? Yeah, it's I don't know, maybe we'll get American Revolution 2.0 just in time for our 250th birthday. What it feels like right now is it feels like we're on a sinking ship, and the people who sunk the ship are trying to loot it for as much as they can before the ship goes down. That's what it feels like living in America right now. That kills me, but I try and stay optimistic these days since I joined an activist group. I highly encourage people to find groups within their community, whether it be a local community, like mutual aid group. You know, you can start a neighborhood pantry. You can start a local cleanup, your local park. You can join a union. You know, find something within your community, because a tenant union, you know, if you live in an apartment complex, start a tenant union. They're literally tearing removing pieces of the ship and selling them while the ship goes down. Yeah, it's crazy. And of course, there are still people cheering it on, which I bully these people relentlessly online. It helps me. I don't know about you, but it makes me feel better to go on there and be like you boot-licking shill. You are a propagandist. Grow a backbone. You know what you could also do if you live in America? You could find out who your local congressperson is. You could find out who the corrupt members of your city council are. You can start, working to unseat them. Did you ever have anyone rethink their position from that? That's not my intention in those moments. Because there's just no changing this person's mind. If you want to change somebody's mind, I find it's helpful to reach those that are within your reach. These people are out of my reach. But what I've noticed in doing this, like I said, I'll go onto these right-wing accounts on Twitter, all of these talking heads, and I'll just see what people are commenting, I'll see what people are saying, and it does feel like the sentiment is shifting. Anyway, it feels good to help people awaken to class consciousness. We've done a piece on NVC? NVC? Nonviolent communication. No, I have not, actually. We're all caught up with the questions. So I think I might go ahead and head over to Grandma's house. We're working on that bathroom over there, so I'm gonna head over there and see what I can do to help. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Thanks for listening to my rants. Bit of a chill day today. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. We'll be back again soon. We should be done with the stuff over at Grandma's house within a week or so. So, should be able to get back to it before too long. But I hope you'll have a great night. It was good to see you. I'll see y'all next time. Bye-bye.